Headphone.
No, let's check the levels right now.
Your levels, your vocals
Am
sound
I
good,
good?
B.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, all right. I'm ready when y'all are.
We
Oh, we
live.
live. Oh, we live, baby. Yo. Welcome to Loop City. I'm your host, Mike Skills. We are a group of five guys that love hoops, entertainment, and video games. Today we have Gonzo Star, Coach Matt, Pistol Pete Toll, and Rad Rim. And all I can say is Game 7. We're going to start it off today with the epic conclusion to the Celtics Bucks series. And I'm gonna go to Gonzo because he's wearing that emerald green Larry Bird over there. And I want you to tell us how we got here, bro. How did Boston win this series?
Well, first of all, we already knew last series Boston showed their defense. I knew coming in it wasn't going to be easy for Milwaukee, considering the fact they did have Chris Middleton. Boston does play a more physical style. Um, the thing is, Milwaukee made a mistake. They didn't win at home when they should have, and they pretty much forced the game seven back at home with Boston, with that crowd, and with this team. And at the end of the day, Giannis really didn't have a lot of help. And I like Drew Holiday as a defender, but the guy just can't shoot. He's not a great shooter. We didn't get Pat Connaughton taking enough shots. We didn't get Grayson Allen taking enough shots. Bobby Portis was inefficient. Brook Lopez, where were you? Uh, and maybe part of that came from the fact that Boston just was that good on defense, but a lot of the wrong people taking shots. Giannis missed layups as well. Credit to Boston's defense. So I guess we're just gonna say Boston's defense, man, and they have enough guys to pull it off. Al Horford turned back the clock. Tice
Yes.
affected Giannis shot like he should have. Marcus Smart plays lockdown D. Jason Tatum length was a problem. Jalen Brown always brings it on defense, and he brought it on offense in a lot of those second halves. Boston's just a well coached team and is a well oiled machine. And I think that they're going to give Miami a go.
Interesting. Yeah, that performance today was something. I mean, um, wow. Like they were raining threes today. There was a point in the game that I thought I was watching the Warriors game, but I'll go over to you, Pistol Pete. I gotta ask you, man, what what did the I mean, besides the obvious, Chris Middleton would have helped. That's 20, 25 points you could have counted on. But what happened? What went wrong for the Bucks today?
I mean, if you look at it, they try to counter the smaller Celtics with Brook Lopez in the paint. They didn't go to Brook Lopez, I felt like, enough in the paint against the mismatch. But at the same time, the way that they were playing defense, it was let's leave Grant Williams wide open in the corner. And I mean, Grant Williams, who would have ever thought would have hit 7 threes in a game? He jacked up 18 threes. Yes, it only hit 7 of them, but a lot of them were timely as soon as Milwaukee started to make a run and get momentum. Of course, here comes Grant Williams with a 3 from the corner. Good for Jason Tatum to not force things in isolation and basically look to find guys. That can't be stated enough. Yes, he had 7 turnovers, but the 8 assists were great to see because he started out 5 for 5 from 3. He was hot. A lot of players in that situation will keep going and just keep shooting shots. And he looked to find his teammates to get everybody involved. Now, going back to Milwaukee, Grayson Allen 0 for 6.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You're in there as a starting 2 guard to step in and to shoot shots. And I just felt like his rhythm the entire series was out. George Hill did nothing all series. Yes, coming back from an injury. I felt like Bobby Portis foul trouble got him mentally checked out of the game pretty quickly. And then Wes Matthews is just not the same Wes Matthews from a few years ago, able to stay on the floor on both ends. So it was all on Giannis, and Giannis just looked gassed out there. And then Drew Holiday, like Gonzo mentioned, just kind of out of his realm. He's not a guy that's going to take 21 shots primarily because that's not what he's supposed to do if Chris Middleton's there. So just everything went wrong for Milwaukee in this series without Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
And then Boston got everything right from guys like Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams, even the steady point guard play, not the shooting, but the steady ball handling and point guard play in spurts of Derek White helped a lot as well. So it was just Boston that just their defense just suffocated Milwaukee. And, we'll see. I think it's going to be a off season of change from Milwaukee. Not blow it up and redo it, but they're going to have to retool some of the pieces within their rotation and have some trade decisions to make.
Absolutely. Like that game 5 was such an epic win. I believe that, it was over if they took care of business in Milwaukee, and of course they didn't. And that actually gave Boston life. Game 7's back at the crib. So what are we worried about? It's all even now. We're going home, and we all know the luck of the Irish and the luck of that leprechaun on that parquet, even if it ain't the same parquet that Bob Cousy and, Bill Russell and Larry Bird were on. It's something about that Celtics magic at home. Those fans show up. I'm going to go to Coach Miller because I want to ask you, man, what were the keys to this game? Like, I'm watching it fall apart, go sideways in that third quarter. Like, is this the same Milwaukee?
Well, if you notice, Milwaukee early, they were up. I believe they had a 9-point lead, 24-15 in the first quarter. Then, for the most part, Boston catches up, and they were basically going back and forth. It was that last minute of the second quarter, Boston gets the 5-point lead because I forgot who made it 2. They go up 2. Then Milwaukee gets the ball. Marcus Smart gets the steal, goes up for the shot. Giannis fouls him at half court. And because he's going up 3 shots, they go up 5 going into the half, which was huge.
And that was a huge call. We never see that called.
No, I'm not
never
mad
see
at
that.
He was going up in the shot motion. Can you call it? Is it cheap? Maybe. Is it cheap?
Yeah.
But it was a foul. And then you could clearly tell especially the way Lopez was playing when he on Grant Williams. He was just sagging off, protecting the rim. They were daring Grant Williams to beat him, and he did. He was cash money. What'd you say, Pete? 7 of 18 he finished?
From 3,
Yeah, exactly. But he was like 7 at one point. What was he, like 6 out of 30? Like he was just cash.
He was hot. He was
6
hot.
out of 14.
And then
also
point. Peyton Pritchard was making shots today.
He
hit some timely shots this afternoon. And those are the big things I noticed. And, Giannis, what do you have? 25, 20, and 9. He was dominant most of the series. And without Middleton, he's the guy who can get you some shots, and which put all the pressure on Drew Holiday now to be that second shot creator. And normally he's the third guy. Now he's the second. And it just puts so much more pressure. Grayson Allen, we saw how much of he dominated offensively against the Bulls. Game 1, I think he was 3 for 5 from 3 in this series. But after that, he was basically a non-factor.
Wow. Man, that was – man, like you can't lie. There's no exaggeration in calling someone a non-factor. I forgot he was on the court at some point. It was just full-on embarrassing. I got to go to you, Mr. Rad, and got to ask you what your reaction was to the game because we were texting – and you said some kind of spicy things, but you were spot on. You were like, yo, this is a wrap. This game is over.
Yeah, wow. What a day for basketball fans. I think the NBA is becoming just as unpredictable as the NFL. The Bucks had a lot to prove today because people like myself say there was an asterisk next to that championship they won last year. And people were saying that they were just, I guess, if KD had a smaller shoe size, they were one shot away from being outed last year or booted from the playoffs last year. But Giannis played an incredible game, but he just couldn't get into a rhythm. He forced a lot of bad shots. He missed a lot of shots he would normally make. A lot of the shots were ill-advised. I saw like he was doing hooks. I'm like, is this Jabbar or what? And towards the end, it looked like a game of NBA 2K, like one of those games Matt and I might have played where he just got hot and ran away with it. And I'm yelling at the screen and throwing my controller. it looked very frustrating. And I think that if Middleton is there, it's a different game. And what today proved overall was that the NBA is changing. There is a passing of the torch, that we are entering a new phase of the NBA. And with that being said, I sometimes wonder. It's like it's as if the NBA is this caterpillar or a snake that's shedding its skin, And it makes me wonder: are these guys really that good, or is it that the older guys have had their time? And I hate saying washed, but they're past that prime. They're past their winning time. They're not going to win any more games. So it makes me wonder when I see the Ja Morants emerging and these other players. But there is definitely a new day in the NBA. Boston has been well constructed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the GM has been excellent. We saw them trade to get Jason Tatum, and everybody was so confused at that time. It was like, well, why didn't they get Markelle Fultz? And no one knew what was really going on, but they knew who they wanted. They got the pieces together, and they have been very patient. I didn't think that Tatum and Brown would work, but it's definitely working. And there is enough food on the table for both of them to eat and both of them to get multiple plates. Defense was amazing, and they were clicking on all cylinders. Are they gonna make threes like that for the rest of the playoffs? And if they make it to the finals, probably not. If they make it to the finals and they see Golden State, I think Golden State will do to them what they did to the Bucks today.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see Milwaukee come back next year healthy with all the pieces together and get some new acquisitions and see what happens, But and there's a lot of talk. Another thing about this new face of the NBA, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of celebrating. We come from that era of basketball. Matt and I, if Matt and I were playing each other in the gym back in the day, and Matt gets to celebrating, he knows what time it is. It's over. We might fight. If you're doing all this excessive dancing around and jumping and, smiling, and you're up by 20, still shooting threes, like, come on, man. We need to get past this 3-ball phase too. It has to end. People need to understand it's mathematics. That mid-range shot is still very effective. It's still alive and well. And they need to put it into practice instead of shooting all of these threes.
Got to train it with the kids first, though.
Yeah, you got.
What you say?
You got to train it with the kids first, because all the kids want to do, they see Steph Curry, and they don't want to work on the pull-up mid-range and all that stuff, like it was when we were younger.
Yeah, it's like when we were kids, we wanted to be like Mike. We wanted to dunk and hit the game-winning shot. We was in the Jordan, and then the next generation was Kobe. This generation is Curry, Splash Brothers.
I don't know, because you always had kids when we were growing up. I had friends. I had a group of friends that love hoops, and one was a Charles Barkley fan. Like, everything was Charles Barkley. One was Chris Webber and Scottie Pippen. And one friend was Reggie Miller. He would wear the jersey and he would shoot long distance shots. But that wasn't everybody's thing. Everybody kind of took bits and pieces of someone's game, because I guess in that era, the 3-ball wasn't used as regularly as it is now. So,
yeah, I think today Grant Williams made more threes than Reggie Miller ever attempted in a game. So,
exactly.
I'm sure if we looked up the stats and we go back and find it, Reggie probably has the game where he shot 6 or 7 threes, but that had to be an aberration. But you did bring up something that I wanted to bring up. So it tells me we're all seeing the same things. We're witnessing a changing of the guard. I don't think it's a question anymore of if. It's happening before our eyes. We see Chris Paul, the way he showed up in this series. We see, what happened to KD and Kyrie in the first round. We saw what happened to LeBron and Melo and all of the Lakers during the regular season. This young crop of studs, of stars, of superstars, Luka, Tatum, they are coming. Ja Morant, they are not holding back. And, I hadn't really thought about it until someone said Chris Paul. What year did Chris Paul come into the league?
2005, 2006.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is
2006
his
Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, so his 16th, 17th year. KD came in 07. You know, LeBron came in 03. Like, yeah, man. It's I'm not saying these dudes are washed, but they are past their prime, and it's just, again, Father Time is undefeated. We've seen this happen to Kobe. We saw this happen to MJ. We've seen this happen to every star that's ever played basketball has had this drop off, and there's no way to prepare for it. So with that said, bringing up Chris Paul, I got to go to you, Coach Matt. And the Mavs laid down a smackdown. There's no other way to say it. Like, you know, we want to try and keep this clean just in case somebody kids listen to. But this was an old-fashioned butt whooping. And Matt, just wax poetic for us.
They ended up winning by 33. But I mean, for the most part, it was a 40-piece extra crispy with 26 biscuits on the side, and I don't think, and not one of us saw this much of a beatdown coming.
Nobody had that on the bingo card.
Now, I was not surprised because you texted me last night or the day before. You said who wins the game 7. So you know who I picked, Bucks, and I picked the Mavericks. The reason I went with the Mavericks in game 7, the home team had won every game in this series. The last time I think a home team won all 7 games in the best of 7 was the year Boston won the championship. I think they went the first 3 rounds. They went 7 games, and I'm sure in one of those, the home team won every game.
Yeah.
In one of those series in 2008. And I think that's the last time I can remember it happened. So it's rare. So I kind of figured, you know what? The percentages kind of favors the Mavs. But they blitzed them early, I think. And what I think was key, Luka scoring, I think he had the first 8 points. He hit the little turnaround 2, the 2 threes. And I think by him hitting those 3 shots, he let his teammates know, I got this. Just follow me. And then Spencer Dinwiddie came in, and he was cooking. Yes. And I think it is, and I want to, I mean, there's not, the Suns I think they got blitzed, and it just, Chris Paul was missing shots early, Devin Booker, they were all over him. And then, but we've got to give flowers to Coach Jason Kidd. When they hired him, the consensus amongst most people, what is Dallas thinking? They're terrible. He can't coach. He did a fantastic job this season with that basketball team. They got off to a slow start, but they were just buying into the defensive system that he was running, and you see it. You see that he's got these boys playing defense, and I feel, you kind of feel bad for Chris Paul and especially Monty Williams, great season, and I think this is now the second time in NBA history a team has won 60-plus games and not made it to the conference final. The other team, the Dallas Mavericks in 2007 when Golden State beat them in the first round. These are the only 2 teams in history.
I did not know that. That's a crazy stat.
And I want to say, I think, and if Dallas won 4 of the last 5 games after going down 2-0. Chris Paul was outstanding the first 2 games, and he just didn't have it the last 5 games. And I think that's kind of, when you look at it was the last 5 games, it's 4-1 Dallas. I mean, is there a correlation there? Chris Paul struggles. Phoenix loses 4 out of 5.
Yeah. No, there might be a correlation there because the series was every other day. So it wasn't like the regular season where you get.
This was, I think, the only game where they had 2 days off.
Exactly. And I thought in the back of my head that might make a difference, but nope. That made absolutely no difference. Oh my God. I gotta go to you, Pete, and I gotta ask you what went wrong with the Suns.
Well, Devin Booker and Chris Paul, 1 shot made in the first 3 quarters. Suns come out down. They shoot 30% through those quarters as a team. No bench help. I mean, they just got blitzed, and it's like they looked more like the Suns of the 19-win Devin Booker era than they ever have with Chris Paul. And I hate to say it because I think Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards ever. But it's kind of the point where, like, every year we've made excuses. Oh, Chris Paul's been hurt, this and that. And some of that is valid. But at this point, there's no injury that we know of. It's just he turned 37 and Chris Paul, like, all his superpowers were taken away, I guess, because he's looked awful. And then DeAndre Ayton's on a milk carton for the entire fourth quarter, no minutes in the fourth quarter, 17 minutes total for the game. That contract is affecting his mental state, and it's got to be affecting the internal part of the organization as well. So a lot is going to be put on James Jones to basically right the ship for Phoenix in the offseason, because this is a team that had an 8-win lead on anybody else in the Western Conference to close the season, and were widely expected to go to the finals.
Yeah.
And so were the Bucks. And so it's like both of those teams are out. It's going to be interesting. To the Maverick side of things, Jason Kidd, schematically, there's a huge difference between the Jason Kidd that we saw back in Milwaukee to what he is now in Dallas. And I'll be the first to apologize because I was not convinced Jason Kidd was the right choice just based on those biases. But he learned a lot being there with the Lakers and just kind of where he could get better. Defensively has the team. Even got Luka to play some defense, even if it's only for, the first 3 to 4 seconds into the possession. It's still a little bit of defense. But huge pickup getting Spencer Dinwiddie and then Jalen Brunson. They've got to keep him.
Absolutely.
There's no question about that. So,
yeah, they got to bring him back. I'm going to go over to you, Gonzo Star. I mean, Matt touched on it, and he had to take off. Pete touched on it. Like, put the cherry on the top of this, man. Like, you read the eulogy for the Phoenix Suns if you have to.
Suns get spanked, plain and simple, by the better team. But I want to put a cherry on top of this. Man, I don't want no more fans to say nothing else about Devin Booker being Kobe, Mamba 2.0. Stop with that foolishness. Because right now what we're seeing is that all these people keep talking, oh, he went to the school of Kobe. Start crossing these idiots off the list because ain't none of them Kobe.
Yeah.
He's not Kobe Bryant. He's just D-Book who can shoot sometimes. That's who he is. There's nothing more than that. Chris Paul, I'm sorry, CP3. I would have rather had CP3O from Star Wars playing this game because you did nothing.
Wow.
I'm sorry. You did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. I mean, and we're not talking about enough about how much Chris Paul fails in a lot of these playoff games where he's needed. We keep avoiding that. He falls to the bottom of that top 5 point guard list for me again.
Yeah.
Because you should have beat the Dallas Mavericks. They've never been it before. You guys have. You have that veteran leadership now and have the playoff experience to where you should have won at home. And then the trick out part is you didn't even lose a close game at home. You got your brains beat in on live TV.
Yeah.
They kind of got beat how Joker beat Robin in the comics with a crowbar.
Oh yeah.
I feel sorry for the Phoenix Suns. They'll probably go back to being cellar dwellers again, and we'll have to pray them from that pit because they'll never reach this pinnacle again. It's over. Phoenix Suns, it's called the Phoenix Sunset. It's over.
Wow.
Apparently, Chris Paul now just within the past 30 seconds, it came out that Chris Paul is denying a quad injury, but apparently a couple of reporters have come out and said that there was info coming out of Phoenix that he does have a left quad injury. Not sure when it was sustained, but that definitely could be contributing to why he all of a sudden fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
The excuses usually Paul Powell after you lose.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. He has a history, and it's a 2-part history. It's he doesn't show up, or he gets injured and exits. All those years when he was with the Clippers, injuries just derailed that team. And then a few times they actually choked. And so that's been the narrative with him. 2018, when he was on the Rockets, and he pulled that hamstring in the closing seconds of Game 5. And I have a whole city of fans that fully believe, myself included, had he concluded that series, Rockets might have gone to the finals. But now you had the best record in the league, you had home court, and you get destroyed on national TV for the deciding game. Yeah, that's a career indictment right there. That's hard to. I can't even stomach it. And full disclosure, I passed out and woke up and saw that score, and I thought I was in the multiverse of madness with Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch, because I was like, wait a minute, how are the Mavs up 40 something points in Phoenix for Game 7? Like, you don't historically, you don't see the road team go in and obliterate somebody on their home floor. Like, yeah, I mean, staying in the West, I gotta ask you, Gonzo. Actually, hold on, sorry, I didn't go to Rad real quick.
Yeah, I was about to correct that.
Tell me what was your reaction to it, and put a bow on this, man, because it's pretty much over.
First and foremost, I want to say shout outs to Pete. Pete, your hair looks great today. I know that's random. Too bad the Suns could look like Pete's hair today.
Man,
shout outs to Pete's barber. But this is what I have to say about that game. I watched it, and then I kind of turned because I was in this. I had to check my TV. I thought I left my PlayStation on with 2K demo playing or something. I was like, this can't be life. This can't be real. Defense. Oh, my God. Jason Kidd. Tremendous. He outcoached Monty Williams. I think Monty Williams might be Jabbar's long-lost son. I want to do a test.
Wow.
But they completely shut down Booker. They shut down Chris Paul. And might I add, Luka Doncic is a bad, bad man. Wow, what this guy is doing. If I was on there, if I was playing against him, me and him have to fight. You're not going to come do a turnaround pirouette 3 and then smile afterwards. No, it's not happening. Not on me. I'm gonna just take 2 takes. I'm gonna tackle you at that. I'm gonna do like Dr. J did Bird when he choked Bird out for giving him 46 3/4.
Yeah.
If you do that to me, you have to fight me. And if you don't see me on that court, I'm gonna do a Charles Oakley. I'm gonna wait in that dugout for you. I gotta beat you up if you're doing me like that. Luka Doncic, of course, I'm exaggerating. Luka is freaking amazing. And here's my prediction. This is what I want to see, because we need new rivalries in the NBA. We don't always need Lakers Celtics. It's getting kind of old. But if you notice, the 2 times that Miami has been in the finals, it's always been against, well, prior to the LeBron James. But the first 2 times Miami was in the finals, it was against Dallas. I want a Miami-Dallas finals. That's what I want to see. And if we get that and Luka pulls out some sort of crazy heroics and they win, the conversation has to change. Everything changes.
Yeah, everything. I think the conversation has just changed this afternoon. Like, wow.
Yeah, he's outstanding. And let me make sure I'm getting everything right. So the first time the Mavericks played Dallas
was 06, and then 2011 they played.
They came back from a 2-0 lead, right, and won 4 straight.
Yeah, the 06-07 season.
Right, and then when they played him again, LeBron's first year there, was it?
Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
Dallas came back from a 2-0, won 4 straight.
No, they came back. They came back at the end of game 2, and they were up 3-2 going back to Miami. And then the next 2 times Miami played OKC, and then San Antonio 2 times back to back.
So we need a new rivalry. That's
Yeah.
what we want. That's what I would like to see, a new rivalry.
Okay. Well, while we're speaking on rivals, we might have a new rivalry or with Golden State matching up versus the Mavs. So let's go ahead and do this West preview. Um, I'm gonna start with Pistol Pete. I'm gonna ask you straight up, man. How how do you see this series going? We got um, Golden State will have home court, so game one will be in Golden State. But as the Mavs just demonstrated, home court don't really mean anything to them. So, um, what should we look at?
It's going to be on the Mavericks to play defense, and they're going to have to switch. And it's going to be up to guys like Brunson and Luka to defend, because now you don't have Chris Paul, who's a mid-range shooter. You got Steph Curry, who could step out to 40 feet and launch threes. You don't have Devin Booker, who pretty much likes to get into the mid-range for a pull-up. You've got Klay Thompson that could hit it from all over the floor. You're not looking at Mikal Bridges, who doesn't really shoot that well. You got Andrew Wiggins, who's shown capable not only shooting the three, but rebounding and crashing the boards. You've got Draymond inside defensively. It's going to be tough. And then let's don't forget Jordan Poole being the X factor throughout the playoffs. Dallas has their hands full. Dallas has to have Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie, Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber, all of those guys playing out of their minds to beat Golden State. I'm going to give the edge to Golden State, but I think it's going to go 6 games, if not 7. I'm going to say 6. Luka falls short, even though he's going to be really good in this series. He's just not going to have enough help against that Golden State offense, barring injury, says someone on Golden State.
We can hear you. Unmute your mic. So we're having some difficulties right now. I'm gonna go to.
Go ahead, Gonzo.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we're good.
I was trying to say Gonzo, but Gonzo is muted, and I'm muted too.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the thing here. I want to say Golden State, but Golden State turns the ball over an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest problem why Golden State beat Memphis, especially in like 3 of those games, if I'm not mistaken, is that I don't understand how they did it, but they out-rebounded Memphis quite a bit in those few games. I think that Dallas, on the other hand, I think that they can out-rebound Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
I think they don't make as many turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And they got bigs that can shoot. And if they need some rim protection, not really playing defense, but if you got somebody like Kevin Looney in there, I can put somebody like Boban in there who's a little taller, who can kind of deter some of his rebounds and kind of get in the paint and keep him from scoring. But I think, and I do agree with Pete, that Luka and Jalen Brunson are going to have to defend.
Yes.
But I think Dallas has enough where they can beat Golden State and capitalize on those turnovers. And if they win the rebounding battle, they can win this matchup. And I'm going to tell you now, I told Matt, and I agree with Matt actually, I said they were going to beat Phoenix in 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
Went 7, and they blew them out in the 7th game.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Celtics in Dallas finals.
I would love
Dallas.
that.
I'm choosing Dallas in 6.
Wow. Okay. So Dallas over Golden State. Rad Rim. Who do you have in this series? You said you want to see Dallas Miami, so
I'm definitely going with Dallas, and I'm gonna say this: the current Golden State Warriors team is not the Golden State Warriors of old. It's not the 73-9 team by far. These guys are on the downside of their careers. Still good
Right.
players,
Right.
but they're on the downside of their career. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with this young Dallas team.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, this Mavericks team has shown that they're better. And I believe that Jason Kidd has some tricks up his sleeve on how to contain Steph and Clay. And Clay played an excellent game 6. However, I personally don't believe that he's been the same basketball player since the consecutive injuries, the Achilles and the ACL and the Achilles. I just don't think he's been the same. He's not shown that. He's shown traces of his old self, but I just don't see that same Klay Thompson. And it would be good to see Golden State go back to the finals just for the redemption. The way they went out with injuries is not how I wanted to see them go out. But again, it is a new day. And I think the NBA needs a new hero or villain, if you would. I think Luka is more so a villain than he is a hero.
I'll disagree on the later part of him being a hero, but I will agree it is a new day. And we have a potential torch passing right here because the Warriors have been that team for a while, even though the past, 2-3 years post the injury, post KD leaving, they haven't made the playoffs until this season. But Curry, Luka would be a very interesting torch passing in the Western Conference and a whole shift in, the power. And there are going to be some free agents next year that are going to be calling up Luka like, hey, you got a spot for me on the squad, man? Like, I'm trying to run with y'all. So, it sounds like we got a lot for the Mavs. Let's go to the Eastern Conference real quick and do a real quick preview because Boston won. So now game 1 will be Tuesday, short turnaround, heading to Miami. And I'm going to start it off with you, Rad Rim. I'm going to stay with you. Who do you have in this series, Miami, Boston? You already said you want Miami and Dallas, so but why? Expand on that.
I'd like to see Miami and Dallas because of creating just new stories, new legacies for the NBA. I think the NBA has relied too much on Boston and Los Angeles, which is cool. And it is good to see that. But I think we just need some variety. Boston, I won't be mad if it's Boston, Dallas, because I would also like to see what Tatum is made of, what he'd be able to do on the big stage like that in the finals. Gonzo said earlier that people need to stop saying that Devin Booker is of the school of Kobe. And he might be. He just failed today. If today was his final or his midterm, he blew it. But the Tatum Kobe comparison is another one that I personally don't care for. I don't think he should be mentioned in the same sentence as Kobe at all. And I think that although he's had a good series and Boston had a lot of momentum going into the playoffs, I think that at times he really takes some horrible shots. His shot selection is bad. His decision making is bad in crunch time. He's got a lot of energy. He's a go player. But if I had to trust anyone on that team, it would probably be Brown. However, you have a lot of role players that are stepping up big time and have this past series. So, it would be good. Either way, I'm good. I just personally want the trophy to stay, or to come back to the Western Conference.
Interesting. Gonzo Star, I want to stand with the East. Who do you have in Miami over Miami and Boston?
Before I get to that, I wanted to get to this point that this is why we love basketball, this type of basketball, because we root for people like Luka Doncic, who's the only superstar on his team, but his team was built around him through picking up not even superstars, but just picking up role players to aid and assist the team winning championships. We praise teams like Golden State who built their teams through the draft. We praise the Boston Celtics because they built their teams through the draft. We even praise Miami because they went and picked up. We really only have one, not a real superstar, more or less like one all-star and a bunch of young guys that you put together on a team through the draft and things of that nature. We rooted for Philadelphia who trusted the process. We root for this because this is the type of basketball that we used to love and we all desired. And I thank God that we have this basketball back again because it puts an end to this LeBron James super team and cheat your way to the top type of basketball.
Nah, stack your team to the way,
Stack your. When I say cheat, I don't mean they.
Yeah.
But I mean you stack your team to get these championships and get these rings, and you created this false legacy of people calling you the GOAT, built on stacked super teams. Great player. I wouldn't argue being in the top 5. Not in my top 5, but I wouldn't argue with anybody else who put you in the top 5. But we praise this type of development of this new NBA, bringing the big man back in Jokic and Embiid. Like, we praise this. I just wanted to just get that out there. This is the basketball we desire. But I'm going with the, I think, 17-time NBA championship of all time.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Boston Celtics. I think they got too much defense. And they actually got two guys who, one's a superstar and the other one is, I would say he's very close to being. I honestly think Jaylen Brown is better than Tatum at times. You got two superstars going up against a team who has a bunch of good role players as well, but only one real superstar in Jimmy Butler.
Absolutely.
I'm taking Boston. I told everybody, I said, I think Boston, if they beat Milwaukee, they can get to the finals and possibly win it. I'm going Boston.
Absolutely. I think we discussed that on the pod. Like, whoever wins this series between Boston and Milwaukee would probably go to the finals. And Pete, you can follow up on that. Like, we had this discussion in the group chat and everything, but how do you see this going?
So if you look at the season series, Boston won it 2-1. But neither team was really completely the same because obviously Boston early in the season is different than the Boston team now. And then Miami had so many injuries throughout the season, whether it be Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, things like that. With that said, with the 3 games against the Celtics, Miami did post an offensive rating of 97, but had a defensive rating of 108.6. Now, if you look at stats-wise, Boston and Miami were 1 and 2 in terms of how often they switched in the pick and roll.
Okay.
So what is Jason Tatum's go-to? It's the isolation. And so if Miami can get a lot of switches on Jason Tatum, you're going to see a lot of bad shots from Tatum, like forced makes and things like that. But my hope is that Jason Tatum's learned from this past series against Milwaukee. All right, I can get going, but if I also look to pass, it opens it up for everybody else, and I'm going to get that ball back in a better spot.
Absolutely. Trust the squad. It looked like he trusted them today.
Yes, and that's the huge difference I saw as the season went on. Jason Tatum's trust within the offense and what Ime Udoka is doing. And let's give Ime Udoka a lot of credit because he was getting slandered up and down at the beginning of the season. Oh, he needs to be fired. What did Brad Stevens do? Like, why did he hire him? And I do feel like it's going to be a tight series because, you have X factors on Miami. Bam Adebayo can get a lot of easy points inside if Robert Williams isn't 100% healthy. But Miami's also missing their floor general in Kyle Lowry, and I think that's going to be a big difference between last series and this series. They really need him. Tyler Hero has to show up. Where's he been? He's kind of looking like the Tyler Hero of old, where he's streaky. Duncan Robinson's got to play because I think that 3-point shooting is really would put it over the top for Miami. But I am going Boston, and I'm going Boston in 7 games. I think that Is this going to be too much of Tatum and Brown? And I think that we're going to see Marcus Smart shine in this series. And he's going to be the X factor, not necessarily from the offensive end, but just defensively and making the little plays. He's going to be that spark for Boston to put them over the top in 7.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun series because, like you touched on, they have the highest defensive rating, and they can. Both teams are 1 and 2, so it's going to be. It might be an old school '90s series, like old school Bulls, Knicks, Heat series, where it's just a lot of defense, a lot of fouls, a lot of people in foul trouble, maybe lower scoring, maybe in the '90s. I mean, like today. There was a thing where, what was I saying? There was a thing where Milwaukee got held to 80, and that is where we at. So, with that said, I think we're going to go over to Pistol Pete because you have something that you want to get off your chest as a fan and of the city above brotherly love fans. As a fan of the city of the brotherly love, as a Philly fanatic, take it away, Pete. All mics muted.
All right. So let's first start looking at the top for the 76ers and Doc Rivers. He hasn't made it out of the second round in 10 years. He's still hanging on to the Boston Celtics championship. What are we doing here? He failed the Clippers. He's failing in Philadelphia, 13-11 playoff record. And you got, the runner-up MVP. You had, at the time, you had Ben Simmons, who, yes, we all slandered him, but he was also an all-star. Defensively, he could play. You didn't do anything. You're not doing anything with this squad. Your rotations are horrible. You rather play an all-bench lineup and DeAndre Jordan in key moments throughout the season than work on a lineup that works with spacing around Embiid. You get James Harden, who comes in. He was fat and out of shape last year. He comes in injured and out of shape, in Brooklyn. Cries his way out of, Houston. Cries his way out of Brooklyn. Comes over to Philadelphia. Barely hanging on to a 500 record with the Sixers, not counting the playoffs. You get into the playoffs. You have a one good game, game 4. Where the hell were you the rest of the series? He doesn't play well when the chips are down. Look what he did with the Rockets. They needed him in the 2018 series and does nothing. And you look at James Harden just overall. He's slow now. He doesn't have that burst of speed. He shot 33% from 3. And you're the step back king, supposedly. What the hell are we doing? You trade away Seth Curry, who was your best shooter on the team, to keep Matisse Thybulle, who the hell would have even known if you weren't a diehard basketball fan that he even played in this series, because he wasn't impactful in either end. Your backup rotation, Shake Milton was the only one that showed heart as far as the team goes. Tyrese Maxey got in an argument with James Harden because he cared. James Harden was too busy worrying about how many ones he's going to throw at the strip club, how many hot wings he's going to order while the strippers are bouncing around him. Who's behind is going to be in his face at the end of the night. Come on now. Let's look at it for what it is. James Harden wants that maximum contract, $250 million, so he's going to make $60 million in the last season, basically, of his career. Daryl Morey, if he does that, I can't get behind that. And I'm not going to go and say I'm never going to be a Sixers fan, because I'll support them, obviously, through ups and downs. But at the end of the day, Daryl Morey even has to look in the mirror and say, okay, we can offer him a contract, but the better thing to do would be, let's trade him at the trade deadline, because you're not going to be able to trade him in this offseason. His value is way too low. They've already agreed to bring Doc Rivers back. I think that's going to be a bad mistake, because Doc Rivers has proven that he can't win. And in big moments, he just doesn't show up or doesn't make adjustments, whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, I'd rather see him go to the Lakers so him and LeBron can cry together when they lose and throw Westbrook in that mix as well. But if we are going to keep Doc Rivers, that means that the personnel on the team has to change dramatically to have a bench. We need shooting and defense for that team around Embiid and Harden cannot play the playmaker role anymore. He has to go back to at least give us 25 a game if you're not going to give us 30, 35. At least give us the 25 a game. Maxey can be, eventually the second star and you can hand off the torch. But you can't come in and shoot the ball like twice, in the second half and expect to say, people not criticize you. And I'm just so sick of these players like Kyrie and James Harden, just the entitlement. And it's like you're being paid millions of dollars to play basketball and perform on the floor, and you act like it doesn't even matter when the big moments show up. So yeah, I'm pissed off as a Sixers fan. Everything was supposed to go right for the Sixers this year for Embiid. Hell of a year. He gets hurt because Doc Rivers is too stupid to keep him in a meaningless game. And he gets elbowed in the face and everything just spiraled down from there. So thanks, Doc. Thanks for nothing, as usual. And I'm done.
Wow.
That was a beautiful rant.
That felt cathartic. I'm willing to bet that you're gonna.
Wonderful.
You felt good. You was like, I got it off my chest.
I didn't have a rant better than that today. I honestly did. But if I can comment on that, James Harden needs to lose weight. he really needs.
He lost some weight, but he's still up there.
Nah, he. I didn't know if I was watching the Sixers game or the 18.
Wow.
And then Doc Rivers. I ain't even call him Doc no more. I'm calling him Glenn. That's his name, Glenn Rivers. Oh my God, horrible coach. Yeah. And it is a travesty that he was named one of the top 15 coaches in the NBA, and no Rudy T. Come on, man. I don't want Doc Rivers coaching my AAU team.
Stop clapping.
He's living off of that. He's living off of that championship with the Celtics, because what did he do before that? The Celtics didn't win before they got Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett.
Exactly.
And then what did he do with the Clippers? He fell short, couldn't manage the chemistry of Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, because both of them, yes, they had egos, but you'd rather play your son in key moments than worry about the disruption and dysfunction in the locker room, and at the end of the day, he doesn't make adjustments. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't click for him, whether it's arrogance or just incompetence. I don't know.
And who keeps giving him the keys? Why? He's already a bad coach. You're gonna make him the GM and the coach? That's like somebody who never shows up to work. You make them the manager.
Well, in fairness, though, like with the Clippers, what they came from. So it was kind of like, what are you gonna do there? But I feel like at the end of the day, if something does happen, look for like maybe the next couple of days. If he decides, looking at, because they're going to have the meeting about the roster and what they could do for next season, I would not be shocked to see him back away and out of the job. But there's also 3 years and like $24 million left on it, so I don't know how that would work. But he may want that Lakers job and see how that goes, because I know he's not keen on the cold weather of Philly and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you're Philly, even though Doc Rivers fails, who out there right now as a head coach candidate would be able to fill that role and get them further in the playoffs? And that's the question I've been struggling with, because it sure as hell better not be Mark Jackson or like any of those guys. Like, it just can't be. Like, they're not going to put Kenny Atkinson in that, even though I like Atkinson as a coach. Like, development wise, they're not going to put him in an experienced thing. Like, it's tough to see. And maybe that's where Philly thought too, like, hey, where are we going to go in a different direction? But I feel like you can't run it back with this team, and you can't trust Doc in key moments. So I'm just going to have a summer of frustration.
Yeah. It's going to be a rotating coaching carousel this summer. There's going to be a couple people who were coaching one team last year. Now they're on a completely different team. And that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. But yeah, Philly, they got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of things to say. But with that being said, I want to go ahead and thank you guys. Thank everybody that's listened, everyone that's tuned in.
We're forgetting one thing.
Wait.
sneaker
Oh
news.
wait. Oh, you got some sneaker news.
I do have some sneaker news, and I'll make it very quick. Nike in talks to not renew Kyrie Irving's contract. That's very telling. Is he losing his selling power? Absolutely not, because his shoes are still one of the highest selling shoes for Nike. But I think that his antics are finally catching up to him. It's almost like he's becoming that plague. Like, we don't want to touch that, because he's doing so many things and saying so many things to put people off of him. We've seen Nike do something similar before when they parted ways with Kanye West. Will this come back in the end to bite them? Because I'm sure Adidas is waiting with the Brinks truck at Kyrie's house to just unload on him. I mean, they gave James Harden $220 million. And maybe that's why he hasn't played well since then, because they just gave him more money to throw at strippers. So Nike somewhat let go of an icon in Kanye West, and he went to Adidas. Adidas was just salivating, waiting to get their opportunity. And now, because of his partnership with Adidas, he's a billionaire. And people are still talking about the Air Yeezys, and people are still talking about the old Kanye when he was with Nike. Will the same thing happen with Kyrie Irving? Will he go to Adidas or New Balance or even Under Armour, one of the competitors? And will he have the same selling power with the competitor brand to Nike? It's very, very interesting. They signed Kaepernick, but they let Kyrie Irving go.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see what happens with this. I'm sure, just based on what I've seen with Kyrie and how he reacts to certain things, I think that there won't be any further negotiations. His agent is probably already talking to other brands, because in his mind, he's beyond worthy of a contract renewal. So that ends the sneaker news this week.
All right, Rad Rim. Thank you for that rant. Thank you for that sneaker news. I want to shout out Pete. Thank you for that Sixers rant. Also want to thank Gonzo Star, Matthew Miller, the whole squad in here today. And again, we are Loop City. We are 5 guys that love hoops, entertainment, and video games. Please like and subscribe. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Also, check out Loop City on YouTube, Loop City on Twitter. Follow us there. Share, tell your friends about us. And if you get a chance to review us, please leave us a 5-star review. That'll help us get more traction and more attention. With that being said, I am your host, Mike Skills. Have a very good night. Peace.